Hi, are you a real tarot reader? Well, I know I am. At least I believe I am. So we're here to see what everybody thinks if you're a real tarot reader. So I am doing the VR to Rachele at Amethyst Ascension. And I saw this on Robin's channel, Toadstool Tarot, and he did this tag. So I thought I would do it too. So the tag is called Real Tarot Readers. So anyway, it's just about, she wanted to talk about, what it means to be a real tarot reader and get everybody's opinion about it. So anyway, my name is Donna. My channel is North Star Tarot. Welcome. And I am going to give you my versions. Thank you very much. Okay, so there is 14 prompts, and here we go. Do you have to know all the book meanings to be a tarot reader? If so, what book meanings? I do think you do need to have an idea of the meanings. Yeah, you kind of do need to know the meanings. It's okay if you don't know everybody's version. Every tarot deck comes with a little book or a big book, and everybody has an opinion about the meanings. But for example, the Rider-Waite-Smith, because that's the one I use mostly, I'll talk about that in this video. But the Rider-Waite-Smith, the meanings, there is kind of a general consensus of the meanings, and then everybody has a little bit of their own version of that. But generally speaking, there is a consensus, and I think it's important. It enhances your reading. It just I don't know, at least you know where to start, and then you can go off in your own direction there, but you have a starting place. You have something that keeps it concise and precise. You know what I mean? So I think it's important. And I've read many books, and you can read books, you can listen to videos. There's all kinds of ways. There's got to be 1,000 books on tarot card meanings. And like I said, every deck comes with its own little book. It's either a little white book or it's a bigger book, but they all come with their own book. So you can get lots of ideas and yeah, just know your system. So pick a system. I use Rider-Waite-Smith as my system, and pick a system and get to know that really, really well, and then you can branch out. That's what I think. Okay, can you be an intuitive who uses the tarot cards and be considered a tarot reader? I really think that you can be an intuitive and be a tarot reader, but you also have to have the book knowledge, okay? So you use both. You use book knowledge and intuition to be a very good tarot reader, in my opinion. I've been reading tarot for 45 years at least, and I've studied it a lot, and I'm very intuitive. So I do both. So maybe some people would think of me as an intuitive reader, but I'm also studied. So what do you call that? I'm not sure. But if you just use your intuition, I think it makes it harder to be to use the same system, because every deck is different, and so probably your interpretation would be different for every deck. And yeah, most of us do. Our interpretations change with the deck, but there's still that standard version that we kind of take off from, or I take off from, and then I put my own intuition on it, what I'm getting, what I'm feeling on that. You know what I mean? So I do think you need both, okay? That's the way I would say that. Do you have to be reading for others to be a real tarot reader? I'm going to say no. I don't believe that at all. I have known people that read tarot for themselves for years or just study it. It's very vast, and there's so much to it. There's the different systems. There's all kinds of things that you can study with tarot, and it can be quite complex if you want to go really into many aspects around the tarot. So no, I do not believe that that you have to read for others to be a tarot reader. I choose to read for others, but I don't know. I don't think it's a necessity. You know what I mean? Just because you don't read for others doesn't mean you don't know, what they mean, and you don't use your love of it, and you don't use your intuition, and you don't use your, all your studied knowledge. I think you do. Okay? So there you go. Do you have to be a professional reader to be considered a real tarot reader? I guess that depends on what you call a professional tarot card reader. My version of professional tarot card reader is actually charging, like having an actual business. And I didn't start my business till 10, 12 years ago. And before that, I read for friends and family, and I read for myself. So I raised 4 kids on my own. I was busy, and I didn't, there was a lot of taboo around tarot many years ago. So I did other things to support myself and my kids. And then, I never gave up. I always loved it. I always studied it. I always played with it. But I didn't go professional till 10, 12 years ago. So yeah. But no, you don't have to be a professional to be a real tarot reader. Okay. Do you need to have certification to be a real tarot reader? If so, who determines if you are certified? Well, that's the question, right? It's who determines it. There are different bodies out there. There is associations, there's clubs, there's different schools, there's all kinds of things. But nobody has a legal kind of setup to be called the place to get tarot certification. There's no such thing. So no, you don't have to be certified to be a real tarot reader. Many of us have taken courses, and there's lots offered, and I highly recommend them. They really, really help. But you don't have to be a real tarot reader. So that is a preference. Depends on how you learn, depends on how fast you learn, depends on, what you want to do with it. If you want to learn, and have that person to bounce things off of, so you're sure you're going in the right direction, you have that support, I think a course is wonderful. You also probably meet other people, and I think it's great, and it just gives you more confidence and helps you right off the bat, right? So it's easier, it's not as, it's just easier. It just makes it easier to have somebody else to bounce things off of, or a class or whatever, right? So yeah, it's easier, but it's not necessary. And I haven't heard of anything that they are going to make it where you have to be certified, to be considered a real tarot reader. Okay, so number 6. Do you need to know the Golden Dawn symbolism, or astrology, or Kabalistic Tree to be a real tarot reader? I can't even say it, let alone read it. So yeah, I've looked at it, I've studied it a little bit. The Kabbalah is like really, really deep. You can go really, you go down a big rabbit hole, you go into that, right? And the same with the astrology and, the Golden Dawn. You can go down these big, rabbit holes if you want to. But again, the more you know, I think it enhances your readings. It just makes you a better reader. It gives you a vast, more broader, understanding of everything in a card or on a card, or, about this system, tarot system. So yeah, it would enhance your readings, absolutely, but it's not necessary. So I don't think it's a have to. It's a do you want to, and will it enhance your readings? I think it would. Okay, so there you go. Number 7, do you have to know the history of tarot to be a real tarot reader? If so, what history? Again, this is hard in tarot because there is no definitive kind of history. There is disagreements about how it started and where it started, and England or Italy or Rome or wherever, right? There is disagreements there, and started as a card game, started there's nothing consistent. There's different views, so nobody really knows exactly how it started. Nobody really knows a lot of the history, until later on, right? So if you study a little bit, what's recorded, and you have an idea, I think that's good. If you want to study the history, again, go right ahead. It just enhances your knowledge and just enhances your ability to understand where it all came from. And maybe you understand some of the older images, the archetypes and whatever. You'll understand them differently and in different ways that somebody without that knowledge might not. But other than that, I just think that it's a nice to have, but not a must have. Okay. 8. Does having a smaller or larger collection determine if you are a better or worse real tarot reader? Absolutely not. I have known a woman, one in particular, that used to travel with me when I traveled all about Ontario, Canada. We'd go in a circuit, and she did not she had one deck. She was an older lady, like I'm older now, but she was older then, and she only had one deck, and she read with that deck all the time. It was a Rider-Waite-Smith, and that's what she read with, and she didn't have any other decks, and she was an excellent reader, and people lined up to be read by her. So she had repeat customers. She was very, very good. So, and then the only thing I think, if you have a number of decks, I'm not going to say a big, like 200 or 500 collection. That's lovely, and if that's what you want to do is collect, that's beautiful, and I don't blame you. I love tarot. I had a fire in 2010, lost everything. Since then, I haven't really had the urge to collect per se. I guess I'm just afraid to lose everything again, right? So I just don't. But I have a number of decks. I have maybe 50 tarot decks, For myself, that's plenty. I believe that if you have some, and depending on how much you use tarot, how much you like to study tarot, you can have more or less. It's up to you. And I like to use different decks depending on my client. Sometimes, or depending on my mood too, right? So, sometimes I'll use an animal deck. Sometimes I'll use a mermaid deck. Sometimes I'll use, a real traditional deck. And, Then I have my Halloween deck, and I have my Christmas deck. And, I have these good feeling decks, and I have these darker decks, and I have my vampire deck. And, it just depends on the mood as well. And, sometimes I want to use a fairy deck. So there's decks for everything and every cause, every mood, everything that you can think of, right? So I think it's really good to use different decks. It does give you diversity. It does give you the ability to expand your knowledge, because some creators in their little book or big book, in their little white book, they have different versions of what the cards mean. An example, the book that comes with Tarot of the Vampires is very good, and that deck is very diversified. It's very, very different. It's not all traditional. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different meanings in that deck. So the deck is very different. So I think that just expands your horizons. Another deck is the Mermaid deck. I can, just off the top of my head, the Lover's card is illustrated in a different way than normally, and her meaning of it is different than what the traditional meaning is. But I really like it. So again, that just expands your thoughts, your ideas, your, what you believe, right? So it just helps to enhance your readings. So that's what I think. And throughout this video, just so you guys know, this is all my opinion, and everybody is entitled to their own opinion. I do not know the right answers. These are just my answers, the way I think, okay? Okay, so that was number 8. So number 9, do you have to read reversals to be considered a real tarot reader? I do not believe so. There's many people that do not read reversals. I took a course with Lori Cabot, the Salem Witch, and I took a tarot course with her, and she does not read reversals. I read reversals. It's a personal choice. It's up to you. For me, it gives me a different vibe for my reading when I read reversals. Other people, they don't want that. They don't need that. Like Lori said, there was enough in tarot that she didn't feel she needed to use reversals. So, and, but for me, I like to use them. So again, I believe it's a personal choice. Okay. 10. Do you have to use certain techniques or customs to be considered a real tarot reader? Example, be gifted your first deck, shuffle a certain way, or use certain spreads or no spreads. No. I don't believe that at all. I think, if everybody waited to be gifted a tarot deck before they could read a tarot deck, I think there would be a lot of people never getting tarot and never reading tarot, and that would be a crime. That would be very, very sad. So no, that is not true. If you want a deck, go buy your deck. As far as I'm concerned, if you want one, go buy one. If you happen to be gifted one, that's wonderful, but it doesn't make you any better than the next guy. So yeah, so go ahead and buy your deck. Again, shuffling, everybody shuffles differently. There's so many ways you can shuffle, and again, it's personal choice, right? And certain spreads or no spreads, again, who cares? As long as you're giving your querents value, you're giving them good readings, you're being concise, you're being honest, and you're being authentic, and you're caring, and What else can you do, right? You don't need to do anything special. I mean, I like to have a candle going. I like some crystals. I have my crystal ball when I'm reading, but I don't bring some of that stuff to people's homes. Can't have candles at shows. There's lots of places you can't light a candle anymore. You can't have any scents. You can't have incense or anything like that going. So yeah, what was, and what is different. And as long as the readings are true, and as long as the readings are honest, and they're coming from your heart, that's all you need. Okay? Again, my own belief, right? Okay. So 11. Do you need to read a certain way to be considered a real tarot reader? Example, be a psychic, read with a divine communication, higher self connection, psychological, or even predictive reader. Well, there is different types of readers, but I believe that everybody is psychic, okay? I believe psychic and intuition is pretty, they're almost interchangeable, right? Very close to interchangeable. And everybody has intuition. Everybody can develop their intuition and their psychic abilities, okay? So it's a matter of how much you develop it, whether you're going to use it or not, whether you're going to be able to access your intuition easily, or whether it will be harder, So I don't know. I just wrote a book, The Magic of Intuition, and developing your psychic abilities. So I believe in them, and I believe that everybody has that ability, and and it's just a matter of developing it, right? So no, you don't have to be a psychic. Okay, read with divine communication. I think divine communication is basically your intuition. Whatever you might call it. You might call it a higher power. You might call it your guide. You might call it whatever you call it, right? Spirit, whatever it is, right? I believe it's your intuition. And for me, that's what it is for me. So yeah, so it's very easy for me to, you feel things, I don't know where it comes from, you just know things, right? And you look at a card, and you're looking at the card, and it's like, well, it's screaming something at you, right? And it doesn't say it on the card, but it's screaming. Where's that coming from, right? Is that divine communication? I think it's my intuition, right? So that's what I go with, right? Higher self-connection, absolutely. Intuition, again, for me, right? And then psychological, or even predictive readers. Psychological, I think that comes from life experience. It comes from, I'm going to be 64 next month. And, it comes from life learning, and yeah, like, I'm not a psychologist, I don't do that. But if you ask me about relationships, I do have opinions, and I do have some history to back it up. I have some experience to back up some of my stuff I've learned, and some of the stuff I've seen along the way, and some of the way that things work, so you want to call that psychological, maybe a little bit, but it's more informative, it's more experience and wisdom, right? So yeah, and that leads to being able to help people, and that's all I want to do, is be able to help people. And the more I can help, the better I feel. So yeah. Predictive readers, I'm not sure. I'm not really a predictive reader, so I don't really have very much of an opinion on that. Do I believe that tarot is a predictive of the future? Only for the moment, because it's changeable. I believe that anything is changeable, that nothing is solid. Everything is fluid, and it's all changeable. If I tell you something, if I tell you, that if you go down this path, this is what's going to happen, and you do that, that's what will happen. But if you decide to go a different path, it's going to change the whole outcome. All the energy changes, everything changes. So I don't really do predictive reading necessarily. I guess it depends on your interpretation of that. Okay, so moving on. Number 12. Can you refer to your guidebook and still be considered a real tarot reader? That one's a little hard. Okay, this question is definitely a little hard. For me, I don't think so. Okay, not as a regular practice. Okay, so you're not going to pull a card and open your book and read the card, or put down 3 cards and open your book and look up the 3 cards and just read what the 3 cards mean, right? That's not reading tarot, in my opinion. That's how you learn tarot, but that's not reading, giving a reading, right? So, but it is how you learn. So I would say no. You can sometimes, like if you're aware that, okay, you get a new deck. You're not certain of this new deck. And you do know that the white book, the little book that comes with it, that the white book, that, the creator has put a lot of work into that book, right? So they have opinions. They have, there may be a picture or an illustration that you come along and you're not sure about it, right? What was the creator's interpretation? Yeah, I'll look at the book, right? Absolutely. And I'll study the books when I get my decks in. I'll take time to study them. But for the most part, in a reading, I don't use a book. Okay? So I don't think it looks as good. I don't think it looks as professional. Like I said, a one-off and you're looking up a certain card or something, absolutely. But as a regular practice, reading each card, no. To me, that's not a tarot reader. Okay. Is reading with playing cards, Lenormand, oracle cards, or Kipper, or any other cards besides tarot still considered a real tarot reader? I will have to say no to that. Okay. You would be a card reader. You would be, I don't know what else you would call it, but tarot is tarot. There is a system to tarot. Tarot is tarot reading. Now, a lot of people that read tarot also read all those things as well, and that's fine. Then you're called a tarot reader. You can call yourself a tarot reader, I believe. You're still a real tarot reader. You just do other things as well, right? I mean, I do read oracle cards sometimes, and I can use playing cards to read, and other things like that, other systems is fine. But on the whole, I read RWS, that's tarot, and that's what I like, is tarot cards. So yeah, I believe that to be a tarot reader, you have to read tarot cards. So if you don't read tarot cards, I don't think you should be calling yourself a tarot reader. I don't know what you'd call yourself. A reader, a card reader, an intuitive. I don't know what you want to call yourself, but I believe, this is just my opinion, I believe that to be a tarot reader, you need to read tarot. Okay, and the last question. What denotes a real tarot reader to you? Okay, so I guess my version of a tarot reader, I will look at it from a querent standpoint. Okay, so if I'm going to get a reading, what I want in my reader, and I guess that's probably the best way for me to try to explain it to you, I want someone that has a little bit of experience. They don't need to have 20 years, but a little bit of experience is nice, someone that loves tarot, that you can see it in their eyes and they smile, and you know, you just feel it. You just know the people that love it and the people that are doing it to try to make some money, right? And there is a big difference. So yeah, so someone that loves what they do, that loves the tarot, I want to see somebody like that. Someone who is kind, caring, compassionate, that has some values and morals, there's certain ethics that we have to follow, I believe, and that you don't want to cross all those lines, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't want a reader to do that for me either. So I want someone who has, a strong belief in what they do, that has a good understanding of the system that they're using, whatever that system is, and that they are looking after my good. They're there for me. They're there to give me the best reading that they can. And that's what I want. Someone honest, someone, just someone who's going to be authentic and someone who's going to be genuine. That's all I want, right? And yeah, so I hope everybody enjoys my readings. I love doing this VR. I hope you guys get a little bit better understanding about me, who I am. And please, if you have any comments, I'd be happy to read them and comment back. And if you have any suggestions, I'd be happy about that too. So let me know how you feel, and I will watch the rest of these VRs. I'm very interested in what everybody has to say. This is a real good one. So thank you very much, Rachele, for making this. And we will talk to everybody soon. Bright blessings, guys. Bye for now.